Alrighty, you guys. So a little bit of a different show today, as you guys can see by the title. We are going to be recapping and reacting to new Detroit Pistons head coach Monty Williams, former Phoenix Sun head coach, and the press conference is going to be starting in about 2 minutes. So I'm going to quickly introduce my guest and friend of the channel. He's been on this channel before, Ledgie Sports. His link tree is in the bio. Talk to us, man. Tell us where to find you. I know you've been out of the content game for a little bit now, but real life comes first, man.
Yeah, exactly. Real life comes first. I'm always on Twitter at Ledgie Sports. You can call me Peak and anything. And yeah, I just love the Pistons. Been a lifelong fan. Dad was a reporter. Have a lot of stories with that. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I remember we talked about that last time about your dad and his history and all that. So
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm really excited for this. Really curious on what the reporters are going to ask Monty Williams and what he's going to have to say. As you can see, I got it pulled up right here. Eventually, it will start. But Peak, I do appreciate you being here, man. And we are going to talk about some other Detroit Pistons, Suns, NBA related things afterwards. But I thought that this would be fun. It's the off season right now. Anything goes. We need content to get us through these next 4 months. So once again, everybody, crush that like button, share the show, follow my guest, Peak, also known as Ledgie Sports. And it's going to be a great show, you guys. I'm really excited. Before it gets started, man, what are you drinking over there? Because I got some coffee and I got a couple waters. What are you drinking over there, man?
I have nothing.
Oh, perfect.
I should have.
Okay.
You're talking about coffee. You're talking about water. I wish I had something, but you know what? It's fine. We're going through this dry.
Exactly, man. And you guys, you already know how the live shows work. Anything could happen. My dogs could freak out any minute and start barking, going crazy. So it's going to be a great live show. I am really excited for this. I'm just trying to figure out. So, never mind. I was trying to figure out how to full screen it, but I actually can't do that right now because they're not technically live. So whenever it starts, that's when I can do that. So once again, you guys, one man show. Also, if you guys are a Detroit Pistons fan and you feel like keeping up with the Phoenix Suns all off season and during the season, make sure to subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, like I said, man, this is going to be a really fun show. I'm going to pick your brain later about some Pistons questions because we sort of talked about that backstage.
There's so much to talk about with the Pistons. It's a big off season that leads for the next 5-10 years. It's going to have effects. I'm just really excited to talk about it.
Just like this coaching hire, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot of money.
And again, we can obviously do it later, but you can always ask me questions later on. And guys, if you're watching later on in the chat, if you guys got any Pistons related questions, Suns related questions, or heck, even anything NBA, it's all speculation. It's all our opinion. Feel free to ask them later on. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat right now.
Yeah, it's funny because when we talk about free agency later afterwards, I'm not going to talk too much beforehand. But there's a lot of guys that were former Suns that are kind of linked to Detroit. Yes, so I'd love to talk about that. I know I've messaged you a few times saying, hey, this guy's a free agent. Seems like he would fit. What do you think? So there's going to be a lot of that.
And I remember we were tweeting each other yesterday about Ish Smith, who just won his first NBA championship after being a journeyman for 12 years. 12 years in the league, played for both your Pistons and my Phoenix Suns, and he won a championship. Did you catch any of the finals? I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I caught games 1 and 2, and I missed a good chunk of 3 and 4. But what did you think of the finals, man?
It was hard for me to watch full games. I think that's been my case the entire playoffs because when there's no Pistons in it, I mean, I know it's bad basketball, but at least it's showing growth. But with these playoffs, I could watch maybe fragments of them.
Right.
So maybe like a quarter here, a half there. Yeah. The finals, I tuned into a little bit more because I've had Jokic on my Dynasty Fantasy League for 3 years now. So he's my guy.
Yeah, no, it was great, man. Like I said, I caught a good chunk of game 1. Game 2 was instant classic, in my opinion. I mean, go back and watch the highlights. That was one of the best finals games I think I ever played. I missed a little bit of games 3 and 4, and then we all saw what happened in game 5, which, second half of game 5 was pretty damn entertaining too. And congrats to the Nuggets. I know they beat the Phoenix Suns and everything, but they deserve it, man. I tweeted it out. Like, they pretty much built this roster, and they were patient with it. Because I think it's been like close to 10 years since they've had Jokic and Murray, I believe. So it's like they were waiting on this. They built it from top to bottom. And in a way, they sort of paid for it, but not like the bad way. You know what I mean? They paid the right guys. They got a great front office, great coaching. So again, shout out to the Denver Nuggets. And I had a tweet sort of go viral about the Miami Heat. I don't know your opinions on the Miami Heat as a Pistons fan, but damn it, they deserve so much credit for what they did this season, and nobody can tell me otherwise. So shout out to the Miami Heat.
Yeah. How many Suns? Were there any former Suns on the Nuggets? And I might be drawing a blank.
I think it was just Ish Smith, to be honest.
Ish Smith?
Yeah.
The Pistons had 5.
Can you name all those players?
Yep. There was KCP, who then we traded. I think it was in the Avery bet, or no, what was that trade? I think maybe it was an unrestricted free agent because we got Avery Bradley. Something weird with that. Yeah. So there was KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, Ish Smith, Reggie Jackson.
Wow.
And then it was the DeAndre Jordan, because he was on the team for like a second after a trade.
Then we forgot DeAndre Jordan played for you guys.
Yeah, he never even played.
No, that's cool though, man. I mean, again, that's just another example of how they built that roster. And like I said, they were patient with it, and they didn't didn't really, in the bad way, they didn't pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, teams are paid for nowadays, not built. I think it was the opposite with the Denver Nuggets. And,
you have to spend money when you have good players, kind of like Milwaukee did.
Exactly. Yep.
And hopefully, it's hard to come across those teams.
Hopefully, like my Phoenix Suns do, hopefully we can pay for some players just like we're paying for coaches, and just like your Detroit Pistons are paying for coaches, clearly.
Yeah.
Which we are going to talk about that later with Monty Williams. Actually, you know what? I'll just put you on the spot because we're still waiting for the Pistons to go live here.
Yeah, they usually take a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to start early, but I didn't think it was going to be this long.
Yeah, I should have told you. I should have mentioned it.
No, it's all good, man. Before it does start, though, I will just ask you, what were your initial thoughts and reaction when they did hire Monty Williams? Because you and I sort of were DMing about it. What did you think about it, man?
I was in awe that they were able to shell that money out. I think looking at the candidates they had, I was going to be happy either way, because with any of those three, Charles Lee, Jaron Collins, and then Kevin Ollie, I think there wasn't really a bad choice. I think Charles Lee was my favorite coming from that Buck system. Giannis credits him a lot for his development. And I was going to say, hey, that guy coming in could make Jalen Duren. I think that's an underrated player to look at. He could make Jalen Duren a better player. But it came out of left field because they said they were interested in Monty Williams, but then they said he wasn't interested in coming back. And I said, okay, cool. That's done with. We can at least say the Pistons tried. Then we got Monty Williams, and it's been all roses since then. I don't think I'm down off the high.
K&G makes dressing your best.
There's an ad playing, but they're about to start apparently. So I'll wait till that ad stops playing. Okay, hold on. Let's see if it's working now. Please be starting. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. I do appreciate it. Press conference will begin shortly. Please stay tuned. Oh, great. It's going to be a while, Suns fans. So we might just have to talk out of our asses for a minute here.
Oh, yeah. That's
got to lower the volume. This thing is freaking loud, too. Oh, man. I will let you know the second it starts, though, Suns fans. I promise. But no, I do appreciate your thoughts on Monty Williams. And then sort of a follow-up question. How do you, because you obviously follow more Pistons fans and you know more Pistons fans than I do. How do you think Pistons fans are reacting to it?
Everybody is in favor. I think when there were the three candidates, Jaron Collins, Kevin Ollie, Charles Lee, everyone was divided and each one had their favorite. They all brought super different things. I don't think there was a single person mad about Monty Williams. And if they were, it was because of his playoff woes. And I think that's valid, but we can't think about that yet.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to get there first. We have to get the turnaround. We have to create a culture. And if anything, that's 3 years away, maybe 2 years away.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, maybe this year, but I don't know. I want another developmental season where we trust in our guys.
Exactly. And if I know Monty Williams, like I believe I know Monty Williams, I think he's okay with that. I don't think he would have accepted the job if he didn't know that there was going to be growing pains, because there was growing pains with the Phoenix Suns. This was pre-bubble. You know what I mean? We weren't very good, if I remember correctly, his first year. We obviously improved, but we weren't good. And there was growing pains. There was losing streaks. There were struggles. And I'm sure Monty Williams accepted that and knew he was signing up for that when he accepted the contract. And we can obviously talk about this later. I was going to say this later on, but I'm just going to say it now. I truly believe that the Pistons are headed in the right direction. And I think it all starts with this Monty Williams hire. And that's why I'm excited for this press conference. I want to hear what he has to say. I'm sure your GM will be there. I want to hear what he has to say, etc. I think it's going to be a great day for Pistons fans. And I just figured I would cover it, man. I mean, Monty Williams was a big piece to where we are now. He's one of the greatest Suns coaches in Suns history. Despite the playoff woes, despite the embarrassing exits, doesn't matter. Like, Monty Williams is one of the greatest Suns coaches of all time. And like I said, it's the off season. We need something to talk about. You know what I mean? The off season's officially here, everybody.
And I think what's going to be really interesting is when you watch Pistons games going on, you're going to see a lot of Devin Booker and Cade Cunningham. I'm just calling it now. Watching a lot of those plays. And I think I said that last time we talked too, with shades of Devin Booker. But Cade's the overall, like, he can strive in a heliocentric offense where it's about him. And I think that's what Devin Booker was early before Chris Paul. I'm just really excited to see what Cade can become under Monty and the 0.5 second offense, which I'd love to talk about at some point. Monty just has a lot of positives that are really going to help all these young guys.
Exactly. And I think with what you're pointing out, and again, just Monty Williams' experience and his philosophies and his offense, bringing that to this young and upcoming roster and talent, if you will, I think it's going to work great. And Monty might have to experiment and tweak with some things. And I don't know what the rest of the coaching staff's going to look like for him, but I think you guys will be okay. I truly believe that.
We got Steven Silas too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, a lot of people look at that.
I heard a rumor that Mark Bryant is also going to be joining your staff. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I heard that as well. I can't remember who reported it, but also
somebody reported.
I'm pretty sure Dan Burke, where we're getting guys who have been around for a long time that are known as like the guy for offensive assistance and the guy for defensive assistance. And Steven Silas is, a lot of people, if you just paid attention to him as a coach this past year with the Rockets, he lost the locker room really early. And there's some guys who make the best associate head coaches or the best lead assistants, but really won't strive as a head coach. I mean, Luka loves Steven Silas because he helped him with his development. He has a long ties to, I can't remember the other names off the top of my head, but he has a lot of ties to guards around the league, and putting him with Cade and Ivy is going to be immaculate. I'm just going to say immaculate. So this coaching staff is huge.
And it sort of seems like, in a way, in terms of the coaching, the Suns and the Pistons are sort of in the same spot, because we obviously hired Frank Vogel. We got Kevin Young, who was already on the roster. He's now the highest paid assistant in the league, pretty much an offensive guru, if you will. I know that name gets thrown around a lot, but he really does know the offense. Frank Vogel said that Kevin Young is going to be a head coach in the league one day. And then we got David Fizdale, and then we hired some other guy too just recently. So it kind of seems like the Suns and Pistons in terms of coaching are in the same place, because even though Steven Silas lost the locker room and everything, he's been a head coach in this league. And I don't know if you could really blame Steven Silas. I mean, the Rockets didn't really put him in the position to win, just saying. But and him and Monty are close. There was that one clip of them going viral after, I think it was after Steven Silas lost his dad. I think it showed everyone that they're really close. So they'll put their heads together for your Pistons, and I believe you guys are in good hands.
And the other thing with Silas that I don't think a lot of people realize is when he took that Rockets job, he originally had Chris Paul and James Harden.
Exactly.
He originally had that offensive-minded guard team, and he got hired for that vision.
Right.
He probably got hired because they might have talked about retooling, but he got hired for that vision. And with Cade and Ivy, two guards, not like James Harden and Chris Paul, but two ball-dominant guys, I think they're going to strive. I think there's going to be a big year from Detroit.
Absolutely. While we're waiting, because we're already 15 minutes in and we haven't even started Detroit Pistons. What are you doing? I guess we could probably just get this out of the way now, man. Do you have any questions for me? Even if it's not Suns related, it could just be NBA related. Anything that's piqued your curiosity in terms of the Suns, guys in the chat, everybody in the chat. If you guys want to ask a question, you might as well get them in now because we're just sitting here waiting. We're freestyling this.
Yeah, if let's say the Suns had the 8th pick. I know that's kind of a little bit up there, and I don't know how much draft research you've been doing.
Very little,
but what,
to be honest.
Well, then let me ask this then. What kind of archetype would you be looking if you were to pick pretty early in the lottery?
That would be awesome. Great question, by the way. I'm going to use my cop-out answer here. You can never have enough wings in the league. Now, sometimes that is a flaw because we've seen the Phoenix Suns have a lot of wings and they obviously didn't win. But I truly believe that. And 3 and D type guys. But I will say this, though, and I feel like Monty Williams is going to be looking for the same thing in Detroit. Exactly. I know he's not the GM, but he's going to be looking for the same thing. I feel like if the Suns had the 8th pick or whatever pick it was, I feel like they kind of want guys under Frank Vogel and his coaching now. And as Frank Vogel put it, he wants scrappy defensive players.
Yeah.
So I would look for somebody like that in the draft. Now, I've done barely any draft homework because obviously we don't have a pick right now.
You don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm excited for that day.
Exactly. Yeah, the draft's going to be amazing. I'm still going to be watching it and everything. I'll probably do a live show that day, but the Suns have the 52nd pick, and who even knows? I don't know if you're familiar with James Jones and everything, but he does not draft. He does not like to draft. He's even come out publicly and said it. Like, he doesn't have a draft board, and I get it, but like, look at Christian Braun with the Nuggets, man. He was playing finals minutes and contributing. Like, these young players can play, man. Cade Cunningham, look at him. He's pretty much an all-star.
Yeah, I think the big thing with having those late seconds now is there's such an advantage with the new CBA. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, like the Dunked On podcast. I would recommend if any of you are into the CBA, the money aspect, because they talk a lot about it. They broke it down. And one thing they said is because of this new second apron makes it like impossible to spend a lot of money. You'll have so many restrictions. Your draft picks get frozen years in advance, like 7 years out if you're over a certain amount of money, so you can't move them. There's so many limitations. You can't sign guys to like the MLE, a lot of that sort of stuff. And it's hard to comprehend. There's so many details about it, but that just makes older players more valuable in the draft. And so you usually see older guys go in the second round. So for like a Phoenix where you have a Devin Booker, you have a KD, and you have other max guys potentially with like surrounding them, I mean, you're going to not have a lot of money to spend on the lower level free agents. Right. So getting those second round picks is super important because you can get the 4th-year senior that's coming in with a really high floor. Might not have a high ceiling, but can provide those minutes, kind of like Christian Braun did. So 52, it could be surprising for you guys.
Yeah. And exactly. And I mean, I forgot what pick Nikola Jokic was, but he was the 2nd round pick. Draymond Green was the 2nd round pick. I could go on and on. Isaiah Thomas. Just so many great picks were in that 2nd round in the past. And those are big time players. Well, Jokic and Jokic's, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say, but we'll have to see, man. We can obviously talk about it later, but just like with the Pistons, it's going to be a pretty chaotic offseason. And I think you said it before we went live, like anything goes sort of for your Pistons. Suns are obviously in a different position. Obviously, it's championship or bust this season or next because KD's only here for 3 years. So we got to win now, and we got to get a team around KD and Booker. I thought we had that, and we didn't. Our flaws were shown during the playoffs, and sort of like Steven Silas, I think Monty Williams did lose the locker room. We got to figure out what's going on with Ayton. We were going to talk about it later, but Chris Paul, as of right now, as of June 13th at 3:46 my time, Chris Paul has not been waived. That report was leaked and it was wrong. That was a crazy day, by the way. I went live for like 2 hours and we had like so many different reports. So it's going to be a chaotic offseason, and just don't be surprised if you see the Suns make a lot of changes. That's all I got to say. And I won't be surprised either.
Mhm.
We got to do something, man. We got to win now. Like this is our, I hate to say it, but this is our championship window, and we gotta win, man.
Yeah, because you always want a player to be on your team for their whole career, like Devin Booker.
Yeah.
But in today's NBA, that's so hard because it feels like when teams lose for 2 years or lose for a year, they're like, okay, let's blow it up. Let's go somewhere else, try something new. There's no continually trying to fix it.
Right.
And with Devin Booker, once KD leaves, which I don't know if he will, let's say if he does, I'm not going to say when. And when that blows up, hopefully Devin Booker wants to stay. But if not, he can come to Detroit. I don't know, hometown.
Where he's
Grand
where
Rapids.
he's originally from, by the way.
Monty Williams. You know.
I've always said this. I'm like, I believe things would have to go from terrible to like disastrous for Booker to leave, because we've already seen the terrible. He was here during the terrible. You know what I mean? It would have to go from complete disaster for Booker to ever even consider leaving. Just saying. But yeah, I don't know, man. I appreciate you talking with me for 20 minutes, because this is taking a lot longer than I anticipated.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So the Suns, when they started winning again with Monty, they were known as kind of like the darling of the NBA. They were a team that everybody was rooting for because it was just an upbringing. And the same thing happened with Golden State when they got Kevin Durant. You guys get kind of like a target on your back, where even when you're not like the favorite to win the finals, it feels like everybody is going at you. I feel like opposing fan bases are against Phoenix. How has that kind of been?
Not good. Very toxic. It's true, man. And even for the Suns players, you kind of said like they had a target on their back. I truly believe that, especially, last season when we won 64 games. That was the season I was like, we had a target on our back. And I think even though some players may not admit to it, I feel like some players don't like the Phoenix Suns for whatever reason. And we've seen it. We've seen Luka and Booker go at it. And we've seen player X and whoever go at it. And obviously, I think I truly believe the refs have it out for us, in my personal opinion. But in terms of the fan base, there is a lot of fans. I don't know if it's just trolls or just social media just deciding to gang up and bully us, but whenever the Suns are failing, or if Devin Booker does something wrong, or if Kevin Durant doesn't do whatever, like we get trashed for it. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it started. Maybe it's because we didn't make the playoffs for 10 years, and that's an unforgivable sin, even though the Sacramento Kings didn't make it for 16 years. You know what I mean? So hopefully that answers your question. But hopefully one day we can shut everybody up. I mean, that's why I'm praying we win an NBA championship, man. Because, when we do, that's when we can pretty much shut all the trolls up. I mean, they're still going to talk trash. There's already people talking trash about the Nuggets championship. But it's like, you win a championship, dude. You win a championship. You know that because the Pistons won it in 2004 and in 88 and 89. So, yeah. I don't know.
That 2004 championship still gets disrespected all the time because people always bring it up. And when you look at the past championships since like 80, 89, maybe, or 84, I can't remember the year, there's always a top 100 player of all time on leading a championship team. And Detroit's the only outlier with, Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Sheed, Tayshaun, Rip Hamilton. They just don't get the credit. And so to this day, people still talk about it. It's like a debate topic. Like, oh, is that the worst championship team of all time?
No way, man. You know me. I've studied the history of the league, man. There are so many teams that, I don't want to call them the worst because, like I said, you win a title. But like, there's worse teams out there, if you will. I hate to say that word, but it's true. Like, and that Pistons team, you got to remember, man, that was when the Lakers were sort of building that super team. They had Kobe, Shaq, Malone, Gary Payton, probably some other guys I'm forgetting about. And the Pistons, they ended up winning. And then after that, they made like 5 Eastern Conference Finals? Yeah,
they made a ton straight. I think they top
were dominant,
6 all time in terms of Eastern Conference Finals games played.
Yeah,
and we haven't made it in that long, and we still hold that record.
I will say, though, man, whenever you guys do become a contender or even like a borderline playoff team, you'll probably get what I'm dealing with. in terms
Mhm.
of fan bases attacking you guys. And again, I don't know what your guys' future looks like, but you're probably going to get a little bit of, the trolls will come out and attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Especially
They'll
those
say,
Kings fans. There's a
yeah.
war.
You guys are in war with Kings fans right now?
There was a little bit, and the Kings muse is kind of behind it all. But it was all because of the Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray back-to-back sort of thing. And I don't even know why they're trashing on us for that.
Right.
Because we had to pick the next player. It's not like we had a choice
Exactly.
between the two.
I think,
I don't know.
Speaking of that, like, I don't want to sound like a draft expert here, but I think it was a win-win.
Yeah,
they
me
getting
too.
Keegan Murray and you guys getting Jaden Ivey. You obviously know more about Jaden Ivey than I do, but he first off seems like a really good dude. And I think his upside is, it's up there. I think he's going to be a great player in this league. And then you guys stole Jalen Duren, in my opinion.
Oh,
you got him. That was an
Mhm.
absolute steal. And we're going to talk about him later. And but yeah, I guess I can see that. It's we got a question here too that I do want to answer real quick. Somebody says Monty no show. Like, what is going on, man? 30 minutes. It's almost been 30 minutes. I don't
Somebody tweeted Pistons thoughts. Tweeted Pistons meant 4:30 Pacific time. Sorry, everyone. See you in 2.5 hours. That's a joke, but
that would have scared me, man. I would have been like,
yeah.
oh my God. I would have just canceled this show, and
yeah,
that would have been terrible.
I'm looking on Twitter. I sent you a tweet, and
Oh,
somebody
my
said,
bad.
"Congrats to those who took the over. You won another over under 14.5 minutes of waiting." Because it seems, every conference we're waiting.
I'll tell you this: when we got our new owner, Matt Ishbia, that press conference started really fast. And then when we hired Frank Vogel, I was introducing my guest and it was starting. Like, that's why I was rushing to introduce you. Yeah, I don't know. So guys, like I said, you might as well get your questions in now, and we can obviously move on to another segment here, because I don't want to just sit here and ramble on. So what we'll do is we'll get some questions. We'll move on to our next segment. Then hopefully the press conference will start. We'll get our takeaways and everything. So let's just talk about it right now until it starts. We're going to move on to the Pistons' bright future. And we've sort of have talked about it while we were freestyling and waiting here. But I'm going to show you this graphic, which I know you saw. This comes from Bobby Marks of ESPN. Now, I remember somebody responded to me on Twitter because, of course, when you post anything optimistic or happy on Twitter, there's some critic out there who obviously is going to disagree with you. I posted a tweet saying the Pistons have a bright future, and I think it was because of this graphic. So, and someone obviously responded, no, they don't. Like, how is this a bright future? Well, here's why I think the Pistons have a bright future. Let me just lower this little banner real quick so you guys can see the full graphic. This is what the Pistons are dealing with in their future. Obviously, Monty Williams, new head coach, picks 5 and 31 in the draft. And I also saw that you guys have a whole bunch of future second round picks available.
Yeah.
I think you guys owe 1 pick to New York, like within the next 4 years.
Yep,
but
that's next year's.
Yeah. And like, honestly, I don't think you guys, we'll talk about it later. I don't think you guys really need that pick. Who even knows what that pick will be? But here's the big thing. You guys have $30 million in cap flexibility. And I know you were kind of talking about the CBA earlier, but still, you have cap room. A lot of teams don't. Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, solid veterans, players in this league. And then obviously we kind of talked about it earlier, Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and probably a couple other guys that you love. And then you got former lottery picks like Killian Hayes, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley's still with you guys too, right? Like,
yeah, you forgot about that one.
So I guess what I'm getting at with this segment while we're still waiting is, am I wrong to be optimistic about the Pistons' future? And what are your takes on it? Like, what do you want I know I'm asking you like a whole bunch of questions, but
no, that's fine.
Like, what are your thoughts, man? You talk to us here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room to be optimistic. I look at all those reasons right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cade Cunningham is coming back after being basically having a shin injury since high school.
Right.
And that's a big thing, is when you have Cade Cunningham hurt and he's dropping 25, 7 and 7 or 35 and 5 on certain nights, I mean, while being hurt, that's just crazy. Think of a healthy Cade Cunningham. And a lot of people said he lacked burst, and that's a big reason why. He just had surgery. He's coming back healthy. He might not be the fastest player in the league, but he's going to be looking a heck of a lot faster than he did in his first couple years.
Right.
I think the young core is a fantastic start with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren, I think, is one of the better young bigs in the league. And an underrated aspect of his game is his passing, his vision. He has an enormous feel for the game. Like if you put him on the Thunder right now, he'd fit because that team is all about feel.
And they need a big too, man.
Yeah. Yeah. He'd fit a lot of places, but if he was on OKC, he'd be getting 4 or 5 assists a night within a certain system. I hope Monty Williams can use him in a facilitator kind of role at the elbow, something. But there's a lot to be happy about. We have the contracts like Bojan. We have Alec Burks. We have number 5 pick. We have 31 pick. We have a lot. When you compare it to other teams, though, a lot of teams that are rebuilding have a lot of draft capital, and we don't. We owe a pick, so which means we can't really even trade any of them. So there's reasons to be not worried, but kind of like, oh, is it going to work? Is it not? But I think we just have to believe in what we have currently, which is Cade Cunningham. I mean, he's a number 1 pick for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I think it's actually starting now for real. I'm not even joking. I'm so excited. Let's go. Hold on. It's acting slow. 1 second, everybody. Why isn't this working? Don't worry, guys. We're not missing much here. Hold on. My computer is running so slow right now.
I'll fit in and do what I can do to help the team, and that's all I try to do tonight.
Welcome to the dog pound.
No, it's the same couch in there.
Welcome to Rochester, and we going under the hood.
Give me my money.
We in the hood right now.
Why won't you start Pistons press conference? Why? Oh my God.
Wow. Wow.
Come on, man. Like, bro, we both have lives outside of this. We got things to do, man. Oh my God, man. This is nuts. Welcome to the Waiting for Monty Piston. Yeah, go for it.
No, sorry. Yeah, basically every Piston under contract is at the press conference right now. So in a picture, I see McGruder, I see Livers, Hamidou Diallo, who's not under contract, actually.
Wow.
And then you have Wiseman, Alec Burks, Killian Hayes. Heard Cade Cunningham's there. Don't know about Jaden Ivey. But the heck of a ton of players there.
They must be excited, man.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the ones that aren't under contract and they're there. They must be pretty excited for Monty Williams. And I think that speaks volumes about Monty Williams being there.
Yeah. The whole team is there. I just got a update from one of the beat writers.
Wow.
For the Detroit News. Yeah. He was about to tweet that Cade Cunningham's in attendance, but then the whole team literally walked in. So culture, man, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I think if the Suns were in the position of where your Pistons are, they probably would have done the same for Frank Vogel, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
Because I think Ish Wainwright was there at Frank Vogel's press conference, but yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I think that shows a lot of faith. Because if they didn't like Monty Williams, or if they weren't on board, I don't think they'd be there. You know what I mean? And I doubt the Pistons forced them to go. That wouldn't make any sense. These aren't like kids, you know what I mean? These are grown men pretty much. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I just wish the stand press conference would start already, man. I do have a question for you though while we're waiting, because it was a good question here. This comes from Backcourt Highlights. This is sort of a inside joke with Suns fans. I want to know, Ledgie, what Ledgie thinks about Shamet on the Pistons. Landry Shamet.
The funny thing about Shamet, I'm going to swerve past your question for a second. So he was a part of the trade that got us Sadiq Bey before we now traded him, because it was a three-way trade. Can't remember all the teams, but we traded Luke Kennard in like 5 seconds. And then Shamet was moved to Phoenix from Brooklyn, I'm pretty sure. Brooklyn traded the pick to us. Luke Kennard. Wait, what was it? It was a big trade. All I know is that Shamet was a part of that trade for Sadiq Bey. Anyways, Shamet on the Pistons. We could use shooting, but isn't he inconsistent? Isn't that the big thing with Shamet?
That's why it's kind of an inside joke, but Monty Williams like adores Landry Shamet. I don't know. And apparently it was like it started in Philly or something, and they were like super close. I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, apparently they love each other, and there's not really reports on it, but there's like rumors, fan theories that Shamet's going to follow Monty to the Pistons, even though he's still under contract. And Andrew Shamet's contract kind of scares me. He's under a big contract. For some reason, the Suns gave him like a 4-year deal. I don't know why. But yeah, he's super inconsistent. Sometimes I was just going to say, sometimes he can provide you. He would be good on the Pistons. Let's be real. He would give you guys good minutes. He works hard, sometimes can shoot. He forgot how to shoot this season. He'd be even though he's not really a big time veteran, he's a lot older than the other guys there. So he'd bring a veteran. Yeah. It's like, what do you think about that though? Like, would you want him, or would Pistons fans go nuts?
I'd have to look more at the box score. I don't think people would be upset at the prospect of getting a potential shooter. I'll say that. Inconsistent shooters, though, I think Pistons fans would rip apart.
Yeah.
But any shooting is better than no shooting, and our lineups had no shooting last year.
So this was a segment that I did want to cover while we're still waiting, because we're 37 minutes in and we haven't even started yet. Question for Geek. What do you think about the Suns trading CP3 to the Magic to get some youth and depth? They're full of young, talented, and have a log jam at forward. And if you know the Magic roster, it seems like they have a log jam at point guard as well, or guards, I should say. I'll just say this, Suns fans, because this was part of today's show. We're just going to get it out of the way now. I believe Chris Paul is not going anywhere. I truly believe that. And we actually have a clip that we're going to react to in a minute of new head coach Frank Vogel, once I pull it up here, pretty much confirming that CP3 is not going anywhere as of right now. Now, there is the possibility of it. There's the contract stuff. There's the whole, like, we could waive him and re-sign him for a vet minimum. And, you know, it's one of those things, too. It's like, kind of like I said earlier, it wouldn't surprise me if this roster looks completely different next year. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if Chris Paul is still on the Suns next year. I'm in favor of it. I'm kind of rooting for it, to be honest. I hope Chris Paul does come back next year. I know that he is aging. I know that he's injured and all that, but it's pretty much like having another coach on the court. And, you know, we've seen Chris Paul at his best. We've seen it at his worst, but I still feel like he can bring a lot to this team. And the clip that we're going to react to is Frank Vogel. He was on The Volume, which I forgot what podcast The Volume is, but either way, they got to interview Frank Vogel. So we're going to react to that clip right now. But to answer the question real quick, I highly, highly doubt Chris Paul would ever be traded to the Magic, just because they're not even like a playoff team, you know? And yeah, they have youth and depth, but that doesn't mean that the Magic would be interested in Chris Paul. Any quick thoughts on that while I'm pulling up this clip?
Yeah. The thing with Chris Paul that I agree that I don't think he's going to be traded. And I think a big part of that is to the leak of him getting waived. Because once that happened, teams are going to say, why would I give you anything valuable for someone I could pick up for the vet min or something like that once waived? There might be a small bidding war, but it won't be for anything crazy because teams know they could have gotten him from the free agent market.
I will just say this, though, Suns fans, like I mentioned, anything is possible during this offseason. But let's listen to what new head coach Frank Vogel had to say, I'm a few days late on this clip. This came out like a few days ago, and I meant to react to it and talk about it. But like I said, real life comes first. Let's listen to what Frank Vogel said about Chris Paul on the volume.
Obviously, there was a misunderstanding yesterday. We did not waive Chris, as was reported, but there's ongoing conversations about all of the options to improve the roster. You know, I personally communicated with Chris and feel strongly about the opportunity to work with him. He's someone I've just had an immense respect for over the years, not only just his game, his toughness, IQ. He's just one of the great winners our game has ever seen. You know, he's done so much for this team the last few years. So I'm really hopeful to have an opportunity to work with him this next year. And I think he can really help us get over the top.
So I'm sorry, I'm just pausing it on my end. That right there is another reason why I don't think he'll be waived or at least let go. Now, there again, anything could happen. But if your head coach is pretty much saying, yeah, I want to work with Chris Paul, he can still bring X, Y, and Z to the team, I think he's going to stay. Now, there could be an offer on the table from another team that could make us move Chris Paul or whatever the case may be. Maybe the salary and the money doesn't work, or they can't come to an agreement. But I will tell Suns fans this, that he's not going to go to a rebuilding team. It just doesn't make any sense. And also, I don't know if you're familiar with this person, Peak. There's a Suns insider who I am friends with. He's been on this channel before. He was recently on, I think, ABC News in Phoenix, and he pretty much told the reporter there that his sources are telling him that Chris Paul's not going anywhere and he will be the starting point guard. So I trust Flex. That's kind of my guy. That's somebody I call a Suns insider. So that's pretty much the Chris Paul segment, Suns fans. As of June 13th, Chris Paul's not going anywhere. And and I'm all for it. Now, again, changes still need to be made to this roster. And we're going to probably have a completely different conversation next week or after the draft or before free agency. The press conference is starting, by the way.
I got a picture of him.
Oh, finally, Jesus. So yeah, let's finally start this press conference, everybody. Jeez Louise, that took forever. I don't know what they're saying. Here we go.
Structure. Want to make a couple of quick kind of housekeeping introductions before we get started. First of all, recognize a number of people in the audience. Holly Gores and members of the Gores family, welcome. Micah Williams, Monty's son, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Welcome to Detroit. And Spencer Breaker, Monty's agent, is here as well. Happy to have you here, Spencer. Arn Tellem, Pistons vice chairman, also member of the ownership team and alternate governor, and his wife, Nancy. Welcome. Good to see you guys. George David and other members of the basketball operations staff. George is here in the front. I think the basketball ops staff is over there, including Dwayne Casey. Welcome, everybody. The business operations staff is here as well. Our Pistons players, just a couple of hours ago, were on the court next to us practicing with some new members of Monty's team. Glad to have all you here and look forward to next steps with you guys. And then on the dais, to my left here, Tom Gores, Pistons owner, Troy Weaver, Pistons general manager, and Monty Williams, the 37th head coach of the Detroit Pistons. With that, we're gonna open this up pretty quickly to questions from the news media who are assembled in the back, and we'll take your questions. But first, I wanted to give Tom and Troy and Monty a chance to offer some brief remarks on what is this historic day for us. Tom, you want to start?
Sure. First of all, welcome. Exciting day, and nice to see you guys in the front there. Getting Monty has come at a very important time. And, the one thing that I always think about when great things happen is who to thank for it. And, Troy, I know you hate this stage, but you cleaned up the roster. You did, I think, everything important. You had a lot of hard times sometimes and so on, but you really did all the tough things these last few years in cleaning up the roster. And Monty, you recognized this roster. Our players over there, way to hang in there. I think it's an important time, and you guys hung in there, great attitudes, and that's, to a man, everybody. Monty, obviously, thank you for believing. Appreciate it. And you guys will get a chance to ask Monty a lot of questions. And Dwayne Casey, you're here somewhere. I want to thank you for passing the baton. And I know it wasn't exactly how you wanted it to go, but you left this team with respect and truth and love, and we can't take the baton without that. And we went through a lot of hard times with each other, so appreciate that. And then to me, the MVP of all this and being able to get Monty is his family. He has 6 kids, his wife Lisa, and maybe he got outvoted. I'm not sure. He came out of retirement, and everybody else wanted him. But I think we're lucky enough to have him. So we just go into the Q&A and go from there.
Okay, let me ask Troy, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Just to piggyback off Tom, we're excited about today, but Monty arriving here is huge because of the work that's been put in from this entire organization, from the business side to the basketball side. The belief people have in us restoring the Pistons. The staff has been tremendous with Coach Casey and his staff, and the players have done is the reason Monty's here. He believes in what we're doing going forward. And think about this. We did not have the best record in the league, actually the worst. And teams with the best records in the league was after this guy. And he wanted to partner with us and lead the charge because of the work that you guys put in to a man, to a woman in this building. And we're going to continue to stand on that and continue to do things the right way. Now that we have a new coach, a new leader, but it's a testament to you guys. And Monty, I'm sure will touch on it, but when we talked, and Coach Casey and I used to talk about this all the time, put our locker room up against anybody, any other team in the league, believe in these young men over here and what they're about and the right things. And we're here now and we're excited for this next step. So I'm just grateful for Tom and the ownership of providing the resources and the support that we need to continue to march forward.
Okay, thanks, Troy. Coach, A, welcome. B, before we throw it open to the reporters, do you have any kind of brief remarks you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'm just thankful. God has blessed me with these opportunities to not only play in the NBA, but to coach. And I'm grateful for the trust that Troy had in me, not just for this job, but for a while. It's been a great friendship, partnership, going back to OKC, and to be here with him now is a true blessing. And Mr. Gores, your generosity, it's changed my life at the right time, and been a huge blessing to my family. We've had a lot of things going on, and the patience that you all extended to us has made the difference. It has allowed for us to be here in this position, to have my baby boy here today. You can smile. One of my best friends as my agent, and Spencer, and everybody that's put the work in here and laid the foundation for me to partner in this. I just want to say thank you. But to these men over here, to have the whole team here outside of Boyan is amazing. It messed me up this morning in the meeting when I found out all you guys were here. you'll find out that I get emotional sometimes over good stuff like that. And I'm so grateful to all of you guys for being here. And I'm grateful to have dogs like you in the fight with me. And I hope you understand that. And so I could go on and on with the gratitude that I have in my heart for this opportunity to be in this position. Across the board, everybody here has not just embraced me, but made me feel like I've been here for a while. And I thank you for that. And so this is a true blessing for me and my family, and we will make you proud.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Coach. Okay, let's shift to the press now, just for you guys' benefit. The reporters we're going to be calling on are clustered in the middle here, so you don't have to look and find them. For you all, I think we have microphones to either side. I was going to open this up to the beat writers by seniority, but I see there's a beat writer emeritus here, so I'm going to give the first question to him. Rod Beard, what do you have to ask? Rod Beard, Detroit News.
Welcome, Monty. Thank you, Mark. This is for Tom. Just how important was it for you to be able to try to provide the best coach that you could with everything else that's in place, the training facility, everything, but to try to make sure that you brought in the right coach at the right time?
Yeah, it was critical, and it's a really important time. And I think, what I kept thinking about, and I mentioned to Troy and I sat for 5 days before we met Monty. He was at my house, and, it was also about these players over here, literally have trusted us and, were holding their own practices, and they have their own fortitude, and they really were able to stay together. And there was a moment, Troy and I, when we were together, I said, those young men are relying on us. And we had I wouldn't call it a yelling match at all. It's just that we talked about how important it was to deliver to our players. And so it's a critical time. I mean, obviously we have great young players. Their character is great. I feel like they're very poised. They don't necessarily act their age, much more than what you would think. So it was critical because we felt the responsibility to deliver. We've gone through a lot. We've gone through, I would say, pain and so on. But like any good thing, you have to go through some pain. So it was critical. And I understand that we took a long time, so I heard all the stuff and this and that, and Troy and I are not making decisions, or Troy and I are not agreeing, but we kind of agreed most of the time. But it was critical that we did it, and we've spent a lot of time, getting this roster together and these young folks. So we couldn't quite make it as simple as everybody wanted.
Okay, let's work through the rest of the beat writers. James, you're next.
James Edwards, The Athletic. Monty, welcome to Detroit. Obviously, recently you took an organization that was starting to find its foot, took them to the pinnacle of this sport. As you've learned about these group of guys and kind of the plan of Tom and Arn and Troy, do you see similarities between this group and that early Phoenix team, whether it's roster or what you can come up with as you guys start to take off?
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities for sure. The young talent that hasn't had the experiences yet that it needs to progress. Coach Casey's done an unreal job of navigating a lot of that. And for me to be able to come into it now is a part of this restoration. Similarities, yeah, for sure. I could name names, but I think that boxes guys. And when I look at the talent that we have, I'm careful not to compare in placing names on guys, because I don't want them thinking they have to be this particular guy. I want them to be the best version of themselves in a unique way. But yeah, when I got to Phoenix, there were some things that were similar, but I'm not trying to redo that. That was there, this is now, and we have a chance to restore. And that was something that Troy kept saying that piqued my interest when he said restore. It was never rebuild. And I think it was something that he learned from his dad. When something has been great, you can restore it back to greatness. And that to me was more or part of the selling point, as opposed to trying to redo what we did in Phoenix.
Monty, my name is Amari Sanko for the second, Pistons beat writer for the Free Press. Nice to meet you and welcome to Detroit.
Thank you.
Just for you, what was the process to get to this point? You know, obviously it's been a busy month. Kind of what went through your head when the Pistons first reached out, and what kind of brought you to here now where you felt that this was an opportunity that you couldn't pass on?
I mean, it's too much to even talk about today. You know, Troy reached out to me right away after Phoenix. And for me, you know, you marry yourself to the job. And so there were many emotions that I was going through. And then to get, you know, that call from Troy kind of gave me a bit of confidence, because you weren't feeling that great about getting fired. And but I had a situation personally in my family that needed attention. And I talked to my wife today about whether or not we should talk about that publicly, but that was a huge part of my decision-making, and the patience that Troy and Mr. Gores had with me and with us as we navigated that told me a lot. My wife found out that she had breast cancer during the playoffs. And the reason that I bring it up is to not talk about my family, but to make it more of an emphasis that women need early detection testing. We had genetic testing done, and then scan after scan after scan, and then we found it early. And that may have saved my wife's life, and it can save others. And so as we navigated all of that, and talking to Troy and telling him, man, I couldn't, you know, right now because I got to take care of my family. And then we got great news that we would find out about her situation a lot earlier than we thought we would. And out of the blue, I got a text from Troy after they had their powwow about me, which I thought was totally off the table. I was with my kid at a tryout. So just all of that was on my plate, you know, losing a job, family situation, and then being dad, traveling with my kids and doing a few things. And then out of the blue, I get the text from Troy, and then it just went quickly after that.
Hey, Monty, Mike Curtis, the Detroit News Pistons beat writer. Congrats and welcome to Detroit.
Thank you.
You mentioned, well, you have a history of developing players and developing teams, specifically lottery teams and the championship contenders. When you look at your guys over there, what is it about this group that kind of stands out to you, and how far do you think this group can go ultimately?
Well, first, you know, I get a lot of credit for that, but these partnerships that all of us as head coaches understand, we can't do anything without an assistant coaching staff, a medical staff, a management staff that all buys in. You know, that's the way it works. You got to have ownership. You have to have support staff. All of that has to be on the same page. That's in place here. You look at the talent on this team, you look at the vets on this team, you look at the trials that they've been through the last few years. It doesn't just give you hope, it gives you excitement. Troy said to me, and he just talked about it, he would put that locker room up against any locker room in the league, and that intrigued me. He said that right from the jump, and that was in the back of my mind even when I told him I couldn't do it at the time. But then I was talking to my mentor, Pastor Bill, and, you know, when I got the job, he said, you know, you think you're going to be what they need. And he said, I think this is what you need. And that really impacted me about these guys. He was making the point that after looking at the roster and looking at the talent and doing some background work on like every guy over there, because he's just that dude, he said, these guys are going to be good for you. And that was a huge blessing to me to hear that, because it's always the other way around. You know, a coach is supposed to come in and change everything. I'm looking forward to how they're going to impact me in a cool way.
Congratulations, Monty. My name is Corey Woods,
Thank
Pistons
you.
beat writer at MLive. You talked about how you felt after your situation with Phoenix, and then Monty gave you the call and gave you a little bit of confidence. How does it feel now for you to be taking over one of the NBA's storied franchises and leading the charge to restore it?
I mean, that would, we'd be here too long talking about that. I mean, when you think about the history of this organization, the city, as it relates to basketball, like, it's a storied franchise. I've gotten so many phone calls from guys who've played, text messages from guys who've played here. That's been really cool for them to say they're happy about me being here. I got a text call from Derek Coleman, and you know, I'm just glad DC likes me, because when you get a text from DC, you're not quite sure, you know. He was excited. Across the board, like different players historically who've played here. Chauncey was one of the first text messages I got. That meant a lot. So that should tell you about the players that have been here, what they feel about this team. And I want to, you know, I think Troy feels the same way. In fact, I know he does. Like, I want to have success here to the point where people think I'm from Detroit, the way that they think Dave Bing is from Detroit, even though he's from DC. You know, I want to have that kind of impact here. And like I said, I marry myself to the job. And I told the players this morning, I'm going to give them everything I have, because it has been a franchise that has a rich history. And that's something that's important to me.
Jamal Collier from ESPN. Monty, congrats and welcome. My question is for Troy and Tom, though. You know, you hire a coach that's been to the finals, that it has the track record that Monty has. Do you view this as a signal or a message that, you know, you guys are ready to win, ready to start competing at a higher level with this team? Or sort of what do you think a hire like this can do to sort of help accelerate that in the win column as far as going forward?
Well, you know, Monty's Monty. So the thing, you know, first, you know, the roster is much better than what it was, right? And we had to clean up a lot of things. And then Monty is Monty. He has this amazing balance to have structure and strength and all these things. He threads the needle. But then, as he said, he's emotional. He doesn't mind getting to know the players and live life with them. And if you really kind of look at what we've done, and Monty, thank you for all the nice words for both of us, but we really also figured out with Monty, and I didn't know you were going to share what you shared, you know, how life and basketball are compatible, and they should be. I mean, we do this for a living, we're in basketball, but life is ultimately a little bigger than basketball. In our ability, I think, together, you know, being compatible about that, I appreciate and respected what Monty was going through, and I don't think there's any reason that life and basketball can't be compatible. So I think that Monty's a great leader for these young men, but he wants to win. And Troy and I discussed that. We think, you know, we're capable of winning. In a lot of our young folks, and it's in our veterans as well, but our young folks have really improved. I mean, there's a ton of improvement that's happened over the last few years. So I think, you know, we're safe. Troy, you can finish the answer there, but.
Yes. We're ready to take a step forward. We had a lot of injuries last year that derailed us and slowed us down. But no, we're ready to take a step forward, but that's no different than anything else. We're ready to go.
Okay, who's next? Bob, go ahead.
Bob Winowski from the Detroit News. Welcome, Monty. You've been as high as you can get, short of winning the NBA championship. You've taken over rebuilding teams before. What made you want to, in a sense, start over again and with another rebuilding team? I know it's not called rebuilding, but a team with the worst record in the league. What made you want to take this on instead of just taking time off?
I mean, the quick answer is obviously Troy, the players, and the money. I mean, that's something that people don't talk about. They always say it wasn't the money. I always laugh at that. I think that's disrespectful. When somebody is that generous to pay me that kind of money, one, that should be applauded, and two, it should be talked about. You know, all of us as head coaches could go coach in our hometowns, not travel as much and be home more and, you know, have less stress. And so, yeah, it was those variables and more. I like those challenges. I like the process of building. I like seeing players get better. I like seeing a guy for the first time understand what it's like to navigate crunch time situations. You know, that's a part of the process that I enjoy. There's a number of other things, but at the end of the day, this is a get to and not a got to. You know, these jobs in the NBA as head coaches are privileges, and there's only 30 of them. And so I've always looked at it that way. And so that we could go on and on about the blessings that go with these positions, whether it's, you know, taking over a contending team or a team that's on the rise. I don't think I've ever lost sight of the fact that I'm blessed to do what I get to do.
Terrific. Vinny?
Hey, Monty, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports, welcome. Along the same lines as what Bob asked, your name was mentioned for Philadelphia, Milwaukee, teams that have championship aspirations. Along those same lines, how long did it take you to unmarry yourself from the Phoenix experience because of the way that thing ended?
I mean, to be straight, I don't think you do that right away. You know, you just have to have the fortitude to move forward. I'll always look at that as a special place in my history as a coach and as a person. Before I went to Phoenix, I was viewed a certain way. That experience has allowed for me to be here. And so for me to sit here and say that I've moved on, that's just not the case. You know, I love those people there. I'm grateful for what they did for me and my family. When you get fired, it doesn't mean it has to be contentious or there has to be silliness that goes with that. I don't believe that. And yet, when somebody shows this kind of confidence in you, it gives you confidence to move forward with them in a cool way. That doesn't mean I have to diminish that situation or that organization. And so for me, you know, whether it's getting drafted by the Knicks and playing for the Spurs and whatever capacity I played or coached in, I think all of those places are a part of your journey. You don't have to divorce yourself emotionally, even though you move on with a different team.
Go ahead, Vince.
Welcome, Monty, to Detroit. Vince Ellis. My question for you is, Tom mentioned that you met with Troy and him at his home in California. Was there anything specifically about that meeting with those two gentlemen that made you think, okay, yeah, this is the place for me?
I mean, that night was a cool night just because I was in an airport or on the highway headed to an airport the day before, and the next thing you know, I'm on a private jet headed to LA to talk about another job. And then I get there and we just kind of talked. We talked about the vision of the team. We talked about who we all are as people. Mr. Gores gave me a tour of his house, and we just talked as fathers, as husbands, as members of our family. And that gave me an ease about him, that we could relate to each other on that level. His son had a breed of dog that I was really familiar with, and so I was educating him on that breed of dog. That was pretty cool. And then we just got back to the table and we sat and talked with my agent Spencer, and it was just one of those nights that allowed for us to be real about where we all wanted to go. And to be honest with you, I committed that night. I told them, you know, if everything worked out with my wife, that this was the place that I wanted to be a part of, be in, talking about the players, you know, to a man. Troy went down the list of players, and I've asked around the league for someone to tell me something squarely about our guys just so I know, and I can't find anything. You know, this is one of those rare situations that I'm walking into a locker room where I feel like I have a great group of guys that just want to get better. And we talked about that that night, and that was it. It wasn't anything special about that night. We ate, we talked. We referenced Coach Dungy a couple of times. He's a hero of mine. It was just a normal conversation, but just listening to them and their passion for the team, these players, and this city made me want to be a part of it.
Go ahead.
Sean Witcher with the Detroit Free Press. Welcome, Monty. I'm curious about the players. When you look at them, what do you see basketball-wise?
You know, the thing, you see the talent for sure. You see the size. When I talk to them, they all look me in the eye, which is impressive. I text them and they get right back to me, which is rare in the NBA. And you see it today. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a press conference for a head coach and all the players show up. That's what I see. A hunger, a desire. They all want it. It really gets to you when you think about it. And so I could go on and on about what I've seen on film. I also have talked to them about what we need. You know, we need to do some things a lot better. And they've all been willing. They've all been receptive. That's something I've seen. And so I'm impacted by that. You know, it's not, I can't say it's rare or not rare because I don't know every situation, but I know in my experience, if you're asking about similarities to Phoenix, that was what was similar. You know, those guys were hungry. They wanted it. I remember my first meeting with Devin Booker. He was like, "Coach, whatever you need, I'll do it." And that allowed for us to have the kind of success that we had there. Again, I want to do more. I want to do different. I want to make sure it's unique to this particular team. But yeah, I look at these guys, I see a lot that excites me.
Okay, who's next? Anyone?
Hi, Monty. Brandon Dent of Afterward Sports. Can you speak to the relationship between you and Stephen Silas and what you envision him being here, a part of the Pistons organization?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen's, we all know he's a great coach. He had a situation in Houston that's a lot like this. He had a young team that he had to navigate and teach and go through some rough times. But the person that he is something that I've admired for a while. He and I have gotten to know each other over the years. And it's amazing how we kind of fell into him coming here because I hadn't even thought about him being the lead assistant. And then as time progressed and, you know, I was talking to a few guys and they had other situations, and Spencer, my agent, and I were just going down the list, and we brought up Stephen's name, and we thought he was going to go somewhere else. And so we called him and told him what we wanted to do in his position and what we thought it would look like. And he didn't tell me right away. He told Spencer that it had him thinking and basically messed him up. And instead of going to the other place, he decided to come here because, like me, he believed in what Troy had told me, the generosity of Mr. Gores and the players that we have on the roster. He didn't even know about all of the other variables that you see and feel when you walk in this building. He hasn't experienced that yet, but he's going to be the lead assistant. He's been a head coach. I think he's someone that will call me up when I get off track. I think he's somebody that can relate to the loneliness of the head coaching position. And so he'll be somebody that I lean on for a lot, along with the other members on the staff.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Winowski, Detroit News again. Monty, I know coaches don't like to be put in boxes and what they believe in and what their staples are, but what does a Monty Williams team do best, do you think? What are the things that you stress more than anything?
Compete. That's something that I've always felt like gives you a chance to be good on both ends and even in transition. The ability to compete every possession, which is hard to do, but the ability to sustain a high level of competition allows for you to have, or at least approach, success. I think Alonzo Mourning said, hard work doesn't guarantee success, but without it, you got no shot. And that's had a huge impact on me from an athletic standpoint. My family members taught me that early on, watching my mother work 8 to 10 hours a day and then go to school 3 or 4 hours at night. That's competing. That's something that I feel like gives you a chance to pull a game out or make a team quit. And we call it the wear down effect. But that's something that if you look at the teams that I've been a part of, that's probably the number one thing that we try to do, is have a team that competes every single night.
Okay, any others? If not, I think we'll pause there. I'm going to ask at the end here, Tom and Troy, if you have anything you want to conclude on. But before that, just again, quick bit of housekeeping. I need everybody to give us 2 minutes on the dais to take a couple of photos of the group on the dais here. And then I know some of you want stand-ups and some other things. We'll facilitate that as we can. But Tom, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
I mean, look, we're very grateful, Monty, to have you. And the thing about Monty, obviously, he's very proven and so on. But, you know, Monty's hungry also. Like he's not resting on his laurels. We discussed that. He's got a lot to prove. And just feel very fortunate to have Monty on board. We got a lot of work to do. You guys know we got a lot of work to do. But I think it's an exciting time for us and a big win. Troy?
Yeah, I think I have to interject this. A big part of this day happening is because of the thoughtfulness and the heart that Tom has. For 5 days, George kind of refereed Tom and I, and like it was just a moment where, you know, he just really poured out his thoughtfulness and his heart into this day happening, because he believed that if you put your heart into something and you make people understand things a different way, you can get a different result. And that's why we're here. We got a different result. His no became a yes because of Tom's thoughtfulness and put his heart into this and made me and Mark and Arn and George and the rest of us see things a different way. And we're grateful and thankful for that. That doesn't easily happen. People don't come out of the box and think out of the box and put people's families and first. You know, a lot of people talk about our family first, but no, Tom really stepped up that way and made sure that we were thoughtful. And it really was a proud moment for me to be part of the Pistons. So can't thank Tom enough for that. And we're here today because of that. Spencer was huge in bringing this together. And, you know, his relationship with Arn, but more importantly, when we got on the phone with him, the way he handled the situation in such a first-class manner with his heart as well, being not only Monty's agent, but a friend, was another reason we were able to get here. So just grateful for this day, because a lot of people put their time and their talent into this, and that's how these things come about. So exciting day. Looking forward to the work that comes after this. But everybody's put a lot of time and hard work, so we're grateful and thankful.
Terrific. Thank you, Troy. With that, let me wrap up. Probably the best way to do it is to say, Monty, welcome to Detroit. Micah, Spencer, welcome to Detroit. It's the last time I'm going to say it, because before too long, everybody's going to think you're from Detroit, as you said. So we're happy to have you here. We're excited about what's ahead, and appreciate all the hard work that you all are going to do together in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Again, give us 2 minutes to take up a couple of photos here, and then we'll be available for stand-ups for those of you who need them. Thanks very much.
Oh, go. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
There we go. Sorry, I was trying to do it on my end, but for some reason it didn't let me.
No, that's all good.
Okay. First off, a lot to unpack there. Let me just start with one of the biggest headlines there, and I'm sure you know what I'm going to talk about here. I did not know about Monty Williams' wife, and I truly mean this when I say it. I pray that she's okay and that she's going to be okay. And I pray for Monty and his family. That's not easy. I can't even put it into words or imagine that. So I just wanted to start with that. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack here. I didn't take down every single quote. I just kind of wrote down some certain things and headlines, and I was following a couple of the Pistons reporters and what they were saying. Real quick, it was something that I believe, who's the guy in the middle?
Tom Gores.
Tom Gores, yeah.
The owner.
Something he said that I liked was, he first off acknowledged Dwayne Casey, and he talked about Troy Weaver, and he was like, Troy did a great job of like cleaning up this roster and did a lot of tough things that Monty Williams recognized. That was when he sort of mentioned Dwayne Casey, who did get a promotion, by the way. I'm sure you know that, which is awesome. And he mentioned like Dwayne Casey did a lot for this roster, sort of like set the foundation, if you will, sort of like, you know, the stepping stones or whatever it is. I like that. I like how he acknowledged Dwayne Casey. It seems like they probably went through a lot in a short amount of time. And then he also mentioned Monty Williams this is sort of near the end, that Monty Williams is hungry, just like the players and everybody else, and that they got a lot of work to do. So again, we can get to more quotes and things later, but what were your takeaways, initial reactions? Did anything stand out? We can honestly jump all over the place because there's a lot. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I took some notes down, and I think the biggest thing for me was how well spoken Monty was, and how he was always very. He chose his words very carefully. And I love how he's so just upfront. He mentioned that he's here for the money as well. I mean, that's a big thing. He said he's here for the players, the ownership. Weaver was great, but the money, and you can't hide that factor. And I think people have memed that way too much because, I mean, you just can't meme that because he's upfront with that. Oh, that comment right there. Did I see Jarrett Jack in the crowd?
Yep.
I'm hoping he comes to this Detroit staff.
One of the Suns reporters said that he saw Mark Bryant there, which we talked about earlier, and Jarrett Jack there. So that's cool, man. Let me tell you, Jarrett Jack was sort of a standout on the Suns coaching staff. You know, he worked with Booker and worked with a bunch of the other guys. So if he is on your coaching staff, you guys got a good one with Jarrett Jack.
That's very exciting. I had to tweet that out so some Pistons followers can see that.
Tell your Pistons friends and followers, you guys got a good one with Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, and I always said, especially with Monty getting that contract, yes, it's huge and it's the biggest one in NBA history.
Yep.
But we have to realize that it doesn't just come with Monty; it comes with the other connections. I mean, potentially Jarrett Jack. We got Steven Silas, which is amazing, and it's going to lead to. Yeah, it's going to lead to over the next 6 years or so for his contract, possibly 8 years. He's going to fill it out with his guys. And so, yes, we paid a lot, but that's going into rebuilding our entire staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fantastic.
I think it was the owner who also mentioned, and we sort of touched on this earlier, that getting Monty has come at a very important time. Because, again, I truly believe that the Pistons' future really begins right now with the hiring of Monty Williams, whoever comes with this coaching staff, Steven Silas, Mark Bryant, whoever, plus whatever you guys do this offseason. I feel like this is one of the most important off seasons in Detroit Pistons history. Just like kind of like this past offseason and what's going to happen this offseason with the Phoenix Suns. It's one of the most anticipated and important off seasons in Suns history. Same thing with the Pistons. Just real quick, going over some other notes here. Obviously Monty Williams, very thankful and you know, the generosity of the Pistons, you know, especially with the contract and especially with what we discovered, you know, with his wife and the breast cancer. He said it changed his life. And let's be real, Monty Williams has made millions of dollars throughout his playing career and coaching career, but this, as you mentioned, the largest coaching contract in NBA history, couldn't have come at a better time due to the breast cancer. So Monty Williams was very thankful for that. And as we talked about earlier, everyone but Bojan was there. He's probably over in Croatia right now or whatever, I believe, which is fine. I'm sure Monty doesn't really care, but he seemed overwhelmed and grateful that they were all there. That's crazy, man. Every Pistons player was there except for Bojan, man. And one quote that stood out to me was he said, you know, he's thankful that he's got these dogs in the fight with him. Does that make sense? He said something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So did you have any takeaways from any of that I just went over? Because I love that. That sort of reminded me of the early Phoenix days.
In going into that early Phoenix day sort of thing, I really liked how he said he doesn't want to compare.
Yeah,
but
I wrote that down.
He had one comparison that he placed in there, and I don't know if it was purposefully. It was comparing to Devin Booker, saying when he was first hired in Phoenix, Devin Booker said, "What more can I do? What can I do? I will do anything."
Yep.
And what that speaks to me is, okay, Pistons, like you have, like you, this is
the guy.
This guy went on to an NBA Finals. He's a guy who's known as the best shooting guard in the league right now.
Yep.
He was in the same spot you're in. So are you going to take the next step and have that sort of thing? Looking at UK, looking at you, Jaden, everyone. Are you going to be able to get to the best level of yourself? And not necessarily saying, are you all going to be superstars? But for like Killian Hayes, are you going to be able to be the best version of yourself?
Can you live up to that lottery pick? You know,
exactly.
Standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. I agree with you, man. And look, even though Monty kind of lost the locker room, we had the falling out and everything, Monty will hold his players accountable. Let me tell you, for better or worse. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. He will hold his players accountable. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What else were you?
No. That's all good. I was going off of how you were talking about something about how the generosity he was showing towards everyone. And I think a big thing that I don't think was mentioned in the press conference was his contract is structured in a way for his son to get through high school. So it has that stability. So even if he gets waived, which he won't get cut, anything like that, at least I hope not. But it's that 6-year mark because I think he is in 6th grade or something where it lines up to what
he's still
for
pretty
him to
young.
graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah. because I think he said he was 13, so that would kind of line up in a way. So it's thinking ahead of time, offering him that contract and saying, hey, like, we are doing all these things to help you. And I think that was a big gesture as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, again, obviously due to what happened to Monty Williams' wife, anything could happen. So I feel like the way the contract is structured is good going forward. And we're kind of jumping all over the place, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but Monty Williams was talking, I think he was with your guys' owner, or it might have been with Troy Weaver, and he was talking about how, like, they were in a room or something, and they were talking just as fathers or something like that, like his family, and then he talked with his agent, Spencer, whoever it is, and he said he committed that night. And it just seems like the Pistons went the right way about this. It seemed like they honed in on Monty Williams, and they said, you know what, we're going to do whatever we can to get you here. But it seems like there's relationships there and friendships that have already been built in a short amount of time. And just real quick, apparently Derek Coleman texted him or reached out to him, and apparently Chauncey Billups did the same thing. So that's pretty cool. I think that speaks volumes as well. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, going to what you're talking about the relationships. This could have been a completely different direction if we got Kevin Ollie or Charles Lee.
Right. Yeah.
Because the Pistons fans in the room will know that there was a lot of reporting on Gores and Weaver not seeing eye to eye. They even mentioned they had the 5-day sort of boxing match.
Yep.
And when Monty was before he was fired, and even when he probably first said, I'm not going to come here, Weaver's guy was Ollie. They have the connections from OKC.
Mm-hmm.
And Gores wanted a guy maybe with more experience, even if Charles Lee didn't have that in head coaching experience. He had it as an assistant coach with Giannis, all of that sort of thing. So if we would have gotten one of those guys hired, I think there would have been a lot more tension once they collectively said, let's get Monty at someone we both want. I think that saved a lot of heartache from both of them, and it's a better collaboration from them. Because it's not one of them wishing, well, we should have done this, because they're both on the same page.
Yeah,
so kind
absolutely.
of scary reality we could have lived in.
And I like how you worded it, like being on the same page. I feel like when you have a young, talented roster, you kind of have to be on the same page. I told you what I do outside of this YouTube stuff. I work with kids, and you definitely have to have structure and be on the same page when you work with kids. And you know how we were talking about how he didn't want to compare the rosters and all of that with Phoenix and Detroit and everything. I like a couple key words he used there. He said, we want to kind of restore things, but never rebuild. I like that. I like how he mentioned that.
Yeah, that's the Piston sort of thing, is restore.
Yeah, exactly.
For years.
Yep.
They did the over under. How many times will Troy Weaver say restore? How many will Gores? How many will Monty? And it went well over what people thought.
Real quick, Monty had a few sayings that he said a lot in Phoenix, and I'll try to remember what all of those were. But one thing also that I wrote down, and this, for some reason, this stood out to me, because again, I work with kids and everything. He said, when he was talking with these players, they look him in the eye, which I hope that was happening in Phoenix, Monty Williams. I hope players weren't looking you in the eye when they were talking to you, but also, he mentioned when he texts them, they text right back. And again, they were all at the press conference except for Boyan, which is awesome. And also, there was something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing here, where I don't know if it was Troy Weaver or the owner, but they said, this is going to be a great experience for you. You know what I mean? I'm trying to find the actual quote. It was hold on, I'm sorry. I had it for a minute.
No, that's good. Or is it you're not good for them, they're good for you as well?
Yeah. It was they're going to impact you, not the other way.
Yes.
Well, and I get what they're trying to say, but they're going to be a bigger impact on Monty than he's going to be on them. That stood out to me.
Yep.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Did you have any takeaways from that? I believe that now, and I love that.
Yeah.
This is going to be the ultimate challenge for Monty Williams, if you will, because the way I look at it is most of these guys are kids. Most of the guys on the roster are just kids, man, and it seems like a lot of them do have maturity, like a Cade Cunningham has a lot of maturity. But that's good, man. The fact that I love how they mentioned that and talked about that.
Yeah, these guys aren't even on their extensions yet. None of them have even signed any, at least the main core guys. Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes can, but I think they're going to play it out this year, go into restricted free agency.
Right. Yeah. A couple key phrases that Monty Williams said a lot in Phoenix was get to, not have to. You'll hear that a lot in Phoenix. You'll also hear the word compete a lot because Monty Williams talks about that. He wants his guys to compete. Let's be real. What coach doesn't? You probably shouldn't be coaching in the NBA if your guys aren't competing, but you will say that. He did talk about Phoenix, and obviously we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but he mentioned how it's a special place in his history. The experience has allowed him to be in Detroit now. So pretty much the experience helped him get to where he is. And then he said he loves those people here in Phoenix. So, new ownership with Matt Ishbia here. James Jones is still in charge, but we did hire somebody above James Jones. I don't think there was any what's the word I'm looking for? Animosity or whatever that word is. I don't think anything personal. I just think it was time to move on. And James Jones talked about that in his press conference. There was a really awkward question from one of the Suns beat writers or reporters where he was like, "Oh, why did you make the decision to fire Monty Williams?" It was kind of awkward, to be honest. At least I thought it was awkward. And James Jones answered straight up. He's like, "Look, man," he's like, he pretty much said, "We loved Monty Williams, but we needed a new voice," pretty much. That's the short answer to what James Jones said about firing Monty Williams. So I guess where I'm getting at is it seems like Monty still loves and appreciates his time in Phoenix. He still loves the guys. I'm sure they're all going to have great relationships, afterwards with all this. And then also too, I like how Monty Williams kept repeating he's going to give this job everything he has, and he's going to be married to the job. I like that. It shows his dedication. Because let's be real, after the terrible news that Monty Williams received, he could have took time off. You know what I mean? He focused on his wife and his kids and his family, but he stuck with it, man. And then I think, unfortunately, I think it was Mike Budenholzer lost his brother, I believe, during the playoffs too. Mm-hmm. So it's like these guys are dedicated to the job, man. So I feel like you're going to hear Monty Williams talk about being married to the job a lot, give everything he has. And he also mentioned he wants to pretty much have people think he's from Detroit. I liked that. Any takeaways on that, man?
Yeah, that goes with when you think of any all-time greats for a franchise, they're generally not from where they're from. But when you think about it, like Isaiah Thomas from Chicago, we think of him as a Detroit guy.
But he's from Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really big to me because it shows he wants to be a staple in the community. He's not here to just be a basketball coach. He's here to be someone to uplift the community. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah. I will say too, Monty is a big community guy. He will be at a lot of those charity events, and he will do a lot for you guys. Honestly, man, I think that's it. I kind of just, again, I paraphrased a bunch of the notes. I kind of just took down certain things that I said. We obviously went 45 minutes too long, obviously, due to the Pistons not starting. That was not our fault. I don't know if you saw my DM, but I do appreciate you bringing great insight and, as you mentioned on Twitter, scrambling for content with me.
Yeah,
we did good, man. We rolled off each other very well, and I appreciate your insight and your takeaways. It's good to have a Pistons fan help me recap all this from a Pistons perspective. So I guess to kind of wrap things up, man, any final thoughts, any takeaways, any questions? How you feel, man? Talk to me.
Yeah, I feel great. I think this just makes me want to run through a brick wall for Monty Williams and this team right now. There wasn't a lot of X's and O's talk, which I was maybe anticipating a little bit. No mention of Cade Cunningham, how he plans to use these certain players. But I mean,
that'll come later.
We will see it. We will see it. It's not like I don't trust what he's going to do.
It's pretty much day one on the job, if you think
exactly.
About it.
And they mentioned that players are already practicing with his staff. So Silas was probably there. Or if he wasn't there, he was nearby, or he's working with some other people on Monty's staff. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention is Jarrett Jack was there. I see a picture of him, and he's wearing Pistons shorts.
Oh, so he's definitely on the roster.
So I think he was one of the guys working with the team.
Yeah.
So
I believe it. I really believe it.
Maybe if he doesn't come here, maybe it's a trial thing. Come work with our guys, see what you think. But good sign for us, bad sign for you guys. But at the end of the day, you guys have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So we'll take Jared Jack.
Exactly, man. No, once again, man, I appreciate your insight and everything. I would say sorry to cut this off so short, but again, we ran for like 45 minutes extra. You guys, just so you know, tomorrow I will be live with the Suns Jam Session podcast. We have a show planned. And then after that, just real quick before we end the show, I just want to go over a couple key dates because this does involve the Pistons, obviously. Next up is the 2023 NBA draft, which I know you are hyped for, and we sort of talked about the draft as well. And then let me just lower this banner so I can actually read everything. Then June 29th is the last day for a team or a player option to be exercised, last day for a player to receive a qualifying offer. But then we get to the good stuff here. June 30th is technically when free agency begins, but it's really July 1st. First round selections can sign their contracts, two-way players, yada, 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 all that boring stuff. Pretty much June 30th, July 1st, NBA free agency. It's going to be chaotic. And then we got Summer League. So you guys, 4 months, the NBA season or the NBA off season will be going. I think it's around 4 months, I believe. And you guys know me, nonstop Phoenix Suns content here. If you're a Pistons fan, you want to keep up with the Phoenix Suns news and everything, make sure to subscribe.
Yeah.
Peak, I have your link tree in the description. You want to tell people once again where to find you. Just let the people know where to find you, man.
Yeah, at Ledgie Sports on basically all social media. New projects are being planned as we speak. It's most importantly about the 2024 NBA draft. We're going to have some scouting profiles come up for some of those guys. Some podcasts with that, insight, reports, breakdowns of certain players. A little different branch than what I usually do. So be on the lookout for some of that info.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man, for being here. Again, it was great to have a Pistons perspective from things. And I appreciate you, man. We got to do this again sometime. I'm going to be doing lots of shows during the off season. So if you're ever available and you want to hop on, just let me know, man.
Of course, if you ever want to talk NBA, doesn't have to even have the Pistons.
Exactly.
Love talking NBA. So
exactly, man. We work well together, and I appreciate you scrambling for content and helping me out there. That was a crazy 40 minutes.
It's fun. I had a great time. I can't lie.
Awesome, man. All righty, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this afterwards, leave your thoughts, comments, and opinions down below. Follow Peak on his link tree in the description. Follow me on social media. Thank you guys so much for watching. If it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Suns. Peace.
What's up, Suns Geek?